shouldn't we have a quiz at the next class?
Yes.
That is true. So quiz 5 days from now. Today we're finishing chapter 11 on these subjects here. Before we get started, let's talk about bonds. I want to make sure you understand bonds. What are bonds? Even though I told you Monday, I want to make sure you truly understand. Let's say we have a company, and we decided we see an opportunity that we don't want to let pass by, and it's right in connection to what our business is all about anyway, but it's going to take us $1 million to take advantage of this opportunity that, wow, we can't resist. We don't have $1 million. Our cash right now is at $30,000. We have payroll coming. We don't have $1 million. So we go and check with who we do our banking with and have been for years to see if we can get a loan. And they're willing to give us a loan. They want some collateral, that's fine. We'll use our equipment, our building. We see that this is a no-brainer. We can make money on it no matter what. What's the loan going to be at? And they give us an interest rate. And we figure out the payments, and how long it's spread out. But then we say, hey, what if we don't want to use the bank? Is there another way we could get this money? And that's where bonds come in. That's where companies will then get a hold of a brokerage or someone who deals in bonds. And they will set up this whole bond issuing thing. They'll evaluate what the bonds could sell for. They'll have a rating agency look through everything and give a rating to the bonds. And then they come up for sale and they're sold. And basically what bonds are is, instead of borrowing money from the bank, they borrow money from investors. And you are buying these bonds at $1,000 face value. When they're brand new, they're $1,000. Almost all bonds are $1,000 called face value. And that's the first price a bond usually would start at. And then through time, if these bonds are 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, through time, those bonds go up and down in value from people selling them to other people on the open market. And then at the end of the time that says these bonds are for, the $1,000 gets paid back to whoever owns it last. And that's at maturity. Maturity is whatever date these bonds are paying back whoever owns them, because they're done. The loan is over. And $1,000 gets to whoever is the last owner. The original price and to the original price in most bonds. They don't all exactly that way, but almost most of them. All right, does everybody get that? Now, the bond has on it face value, $1,000. They all do. Because all your calculations that involve face value, you want to know what that number is. On the bond is an interest rate attached to it. So for example, if it's 5%, that means whoever owns this bond during the 10, 20, or 30 years, the life of the bond to maturity, is going to get 5% per year on the face value. It doesn't matter how much you paid for it from someone else, or how much, if you paid over $1,000 or less than $1,000, means nothing on how much you're going to receive in the mail. And interest, sometimes called dividends, sometimes called interest, it's always going to be 5% of face value. So take 5% of 1,000, whoever has that bond is getting $50 per year, and almost all bonds will pay it every 6 months. So it's half of that. So this is going to be $25 per semi-annual payment. And after 6 months go by, you own it, you've gotten a payment, another 6 months, you got a $25 again, and you're thinking about selling it. But if interest rates have moved, like let's say this bond was I can't remember the ratings, but let's say it was an A bond. And now a year's gone by. If A bonds, brand new ones, that are just like our company, if they're going for more or less than 5%, you're not going to be able to sell that bond for $1,000, whoever owns it. Because why would somebody buy your bond that pays $50 if a brand new bond with a company that's the same rating is offering their bonds at 6% now because interest rates went up? The investor's going to say, I'm going to go buy that bond. $1,000, I'm going to make $60. I got to pay $1,000 to make $50 with your bond. So whoever owns this bond now, if they really need the money, they're in a situation where they have to sell it for less than what they paid for it. So instead of 1,000, they're maybe selling it for, and we're about to learn how to figure out what that bond might be worth because of interest rate changes during the life of the bond. And when this bond is 20 or 30 years to maturity, interest rates will go in that 2 decades up and down to the point where if you hold it long enough and what was worth less than 1,000, you didn't want to sell it because of that, just hold on to it for a half a decade, and maybe now it's worth more than 1,000. If you can. If you need the money, you get burned because you bought it at a time and interest rates went up and now it's not worth as much as it was. So, you're going to have questions on your quiz. Is that this Saturday? You have a question on your quiz, and some of the questions say how much interest will be distributed. You take the face value times the interest rate, and there's the yearly amount, and you have to divide by 2 to get to that semi-annual amount. And a lot of people will get this confused with current yield. That's very different. And somebody trying to go real fast on their quiz will say, oh, that's 5% bond, face value is $1,000, $50. Or current yield, oh, it says right there, it's 5% bond. There's your yield. Yield means percent you'd make on the bond. But current yield is asking, what will the person who owns it make as a percentage if they didn't pay $1,000? You ready? This bond's paying $50 for the life of it. Because that was the original way it is. But that bond's not worth $1,000 anymore, and so the new buyer just paid $900 for it. You had to sell it at a discount. Current yield is asking what percent will this new buyer have to be making on their investment because they didn't pay face value for it. So you take the amount that bond pays, which will always be the $50 in this case because it's a 5% bond, but because they paid less, you're dividing by the price they paid. So as you can see, they're going to make more than 5%, which was the whole reason why we had to sell it at a discount because interest rates went up. And this person only became interested in our used bond because they said, oh, as long as you're selling it at a lower price, and I'm going to be making $50, I'm going to be making more than 5% of my money. Now I'm interested in buying your bond. Where's my calculator? 50 divided by 900. Give me a number. 0.45, hang on a minute, 0.6. 0.0555. Move the decimal 2 places to the right. That's 5.5555%. That person became interested in it because even though it's a 5% bond, they get to pay less than face value, which really makes they're now earning 5.5% on their investment because they didn't have to pay full price. And here's the bonus. If they hang on to that bond all the way to maturity, they get an extra $100 because whoever owns it at the end gets face value. And that's called appreciation by getting more than what you paid for it. So that's one of the ways you can make money on bonds. You make money on bonds because of the interest, and you can make money on bonds because there's certain times you can sell them for more than what you paid for them, or you can hang on to it to maturity. If you paid less than $1,000, you're making money then by holding out till maturity to get that $1,000 from the company when they pay back everybody. Okay, there's the basis of bonds, right? You got it? Now, remember what I said about your retirement? And I said, you have to be aware, watch the news, and be aware which way interest rates are going to go. Because if all of you, when you're getting a degree so you can get this job that has all these great benefits and is going to pay you more than you've ever made in your whole life, is that not the goal, or am I confused? Is that the goal? Well, I don't know, is it? So when you get to this company, you're going to have this retirement plan, and part of the plan's in mutual funds related to bonds. And if you are watching headlines and you go, oh, wow, interest rates are heading up over the next few months, I think interest rates are heading up. You want to sign into your retirement plan, go click, click, and move the money out of the bond mutual funds, which cost you nothing to do. They don't charge you for moving your money in your retirement. It's free. Sometimes they have limits, like you can only maybe do it 10 times a year or something like that. There's other rules, but cost you nothing but your time and being aware that you're watching headlines. You click, click, and get the money out of the bond mutual fund until you think interest rates are going to be heading down. And when you think interest rates are going down, click, click, get the money back into the bond mutual funds. Now here's why. Let's go back to this bond. $1,000, 5%, that equals $50, okay? And this is a A-rated bond. Let's say 2 years go by. And that bond paid $50 to whoever owned it the first year, 25 to 25, 25, 25 the second year to whoever owns it. And now this person wants to sell it. Interest rates were heading up. Now remember, if you knew interest rates were heading up, I said before they really take off, get your money out of the bond mutual funds. Because here's what's happening to bonds when interest rates go up. Investors who are looking to get into buy some bonds go and they want A bonds, but A bonds now 2 years later are paying 6%. So they would get $60. So they're never going to pay the $1,000 for your bond. So for you to say, well, what do I have to sell my bond at? You look at what current bonds are going for that have the same rating of the company you own your bond for. And that current value is 6%. So you take the amount of money that would be made per year by whoever owns the bond, divided by the interest rate today for the same bond. This is a 5% bond, but that was 2 years ago. Today it's at 6%, 0.06. Give me a calculator. 50 divided by 0.06 is going to be more than less than $1,000. It's going to be $833.33. That is the approximate market value of that bond because you bought it and interest rates went up since you've owned it.
So if you want to unload $1,000 face value bond at 5%, but the interest rate is 6%, you can only unload for $833.
Around $833. That's not exactly. Someone's going to say, what? Now they're going to, there's bid ask. When you go onto these, go to like Yahoo Bond Sales. There's a website where you can bid ask buying used bonds. People can put their bonds up for sale. That's approximately what you would get for it if you find somebody. But they're going to say, why would I go buy this person's bond when I get a brand new one for 6% already? You almost are going to have to go a little lower than $833. The bid on yours is probably going to be like, it's going to start at like $810. And you're wanting $833, and then it's going to go $812, and you're at $831. You may not even get that. What this calculation does is give you an approximation. But here's what's happening to the mutual fund manager who has no choice but to buy and sell bonds because that's the purpose of that mutual fund that your retirement was in. That when interest rates are going up, I'm saying get out of that because every time this person buys and sells bonds, they're losing money. And that's what happens when interest rates go up. Watch what happens, though, when interest rates go down. All right. 2 years go by and the opposite took place. Matter of fact, when 2 years ago, you went into your retirement and you said, wow, interest rates are heading down. We just had, here, I want to bring this to reality here. Current events, where is this? Wow, we're about to have a financial crash again because car loans, 7 million Americans are 3 months behind on their car payments and they're about to have their cars repossessed and they're not even going to be able to get to work. And it's going to cause a disaster. A million more than we've ever had in our history, and the most we've ever had defaults on car loans in our history was right after the last financial crash. It peaked at 6 million. And so when you have 7 million and there's no real reason for it, we haven't had a financial crash. We aren't in a crisis. Matter of fact, our unemployment is lower than ever. The economy is growing to the point to where the Federal Reserve has to keep raising interest rates to try to slow down the growth. But people are defaulting. And one of the points in this article that I loved about it, said this economy and this tax cut stuff helped a lot of people, but it obviously didn't help everybody. And these people are going to be suffering. And it's going to eventually affect the economy. It's going to be like a wave when all these cars start getting repossessed, which is coming up soon. Don't get me wrong, if you're looking for a car, prices are going down. That's the good news. If you can get, I always try to find the good news. So, that happens. And you've had this bond for 2 years, and you go, oh my God, look at what just happened. This market just took a 20% dip because of all these cars are getting repossessed, and people are, unemployment jumping up because people can't even get to work now. And you went into your retirement going, I know interest rates are going to go down, the government's going to want to stimulate this economy, and you switched into bonds. These bonds are like this, $1,000, 5%, A rating, $50. But interest rates went down, just like you forecasted 2 years later, to 4%. Oh, gotta put the cap back on. 4% now. All right, so people could buy brand new bonds at A rating and get $40, but they're going, wait a minute, you're putting your bond up for sale and it's gonna pay them $50. They're going, wow, why would I want to buy this $1,000 brand new bond face value and only make 40 when somebody's selling theirs for 50? Matter of fact, they want your bonds so bad that they're willing to pay more than 1,000. So don't, and that's what's happening to the managers of these bond mutual funds. They're going, wow, look at this, interest rates going down. They're buying and selling bonds, but everyone they're selling now, they're making a killing on. Because they're selling them all for over 1,000, and the bond mutual funds start going, ooh, I'm glad I got in that. Because what will happen, let's get the approximate value of that bond because interest rates went down. The same deal, $50 is what's going to pay for the life. It's set at 5% of face value. $50, but interest rates went down now to 0.04. 50 divided by 4, $1,250 is about the maximum you can get for that bond. But you held the bond for 2 years. You got $50 the first year, $50 the second year, and bonus, $250. Let's say you don't get all that, you may get $240, but still, $250 bonus because you knew interest rates were going to go down. Now, in 2 years, what did you really make on this investment? Well, let's add this up because you only had it for 2 years. You spent $1,000. You got back that 1,000 plus 250. And you made $50 each year for 2 years. 50, 50, 250 is $350, right? $350 divided by $1,000. Remember, this is 2 years. Equals 0.35, which equals 35%. Divided by 2 years is 17 and a half. 17.5% per year. So you made this investment going, I'm going to make 5%, but because you realized that interest rates were going to go down, you capitalized on it, making 17.5% on your money, which is huge. People, would jump in a lake. I don't know what I would do. It's crazy stuff. I'd kiss my dog for that percent. How's that? I don't have a dog, but I meant the dog I'm taking care of. I would do crazy stuff to make 17.5% of my money. So it's all about saying it's so easy to forecast which way interest rates are going to go if you just start watching. Just start watching. Look up the Treasury yield. Look up the average 30-year mortgage. And keep track of where it was, and you'll see which way interest rates are going. And they don't move fast. Interest rates, through time, have moved slow. So it makes it pretty obvious, even if you don't catch it right at the beginning, it'll be obvious which direction it's going in. The Reserve, Federal Reserve, who they're always raising or lowering rates because the rate they're talking about is the money that major banks or financial institutions borrow from each other or borrow from the Federal Reserve. And so that rate's pretty low, and then they take that money and they lend it out at a higher rate to try to make the difference. The Federal Reserve announces when they're lowering and raising rates. They announce it months in advance. They say, they've already said this, they say if this economy doesn't slow down and it keeps growing at the pace it's at, we are planning on raising rates in 2019 2 to 3 times, probably 0.25% each time. They've announced that, and if you're seeing numbers in our economy right now that says this economy is still growing, then you're going to go, wow, I bet they're going to raise rates, which in turn means all the other rates you'll see the loan rates go up, you'll see interest rates go up on your savings. I'm earning 2.1% on a savings account that's insured, and it has been since 2007 maybe, since I've been able to make 2.1% in a savings account. It has been less than 1% for almost a whole decade. And yet, everybody knew this was coming because it followed the Federal Reserve announcing they're raising rates. They're raising rates. And as they raise rates, loan rates and investment rates all follow suit. And they announce it in advance. And that's all you need is that piece of information where you can capitalize through bonds or bond mutual funds. All right. Everyone here should be making more money than your coworkers in your retirement just by making these little shifts. And these shifts maybe are only once every couple of years. Once you start seeing them heading up, make the shift. It'll be a couple of years before they start heading back down. Once you see them heading back down, make a shift. That's what most people, 90% of the average worker who has a retirement will never do what I just described to you. Be the 10%. You're the ones going to make a lot more than in your retirement. All right, so that's what bonds are all about. Here's my favorite bonds. This is what really got me hugely interested in bonds back in the 1990s. When David Bowie announced, this has never happened before, I never heard this, a rock star saying, I don't want to borrow money. The article says he borrowed it to buy from his former manager the rights to certain songs, but when I remember in the 90s when this was all happening, a big chunk of the money, he raised 50-some million, I can't remember. Big chunk of the money is, this was the first time a rock star said, I'm going to buy all the equipment and pay everybody myself instead of having sponsors. He didn't want, Miller Lite sponsoring his tour, who would then put up the money so they can get all the trucks and get all the equipment and get all the rehearsals and everybody paid to go on tour. This was a huge deal, but he had to put up collateral. So he said, I'm going to put, you know how artists, when they write their own songs and they own the rights to the publishing rights, every time that song's played on the radio, or I used to be the deputy director of a museum, if we were playing music in our lobbies and our art areas, we had to pay one of the agencies, like BMI, I think it's called, I can't remember the name of the other one, we had to pay them a fee for the songs that were played the most, and it's based on, if you hear a song on the radio a whole bunch of times, whoever owns the rights to that song, publishing rights and artistic rights, they're getting paid. It's only like $1 or 20 cents or something. But when you have a song played, let's say 1 million times in 1 year, that's a big amount of money. So what David Bowie said is, I want to borrow this $55 million, and I want to do it in bonds, which had never been done before. And that's why they were named the Bowie bonds. It was like a very famous big deal. And he put up the last, I think it's 25 years of his royalties, or I mean his last 25 years of all his songs, 25 albums. Said, here is my 25 albums that I own all the rights to, that I'm collecting royalties on, that I'm going to use as collateral for these bonds. And the investors ate it up. The bonds sold out within hours from the date they went up for sale. Within hours. And it paid what percent? It was like a high percent, 7.5%. That was like the going rate back in the 90s. So where is it? 7.5. 7.9. So how much? At face value is 1,000. 7.9%. So $79 per year, right? Went to each investor, divided in half every 6 months. And some people were buying these bonds just to say, look, it's part of history, number one, because no one had ever done this before. And Bowie was huge in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s. I don't know if you guys had to have heard of David Bowie, right?
Black Star is one of my favorite albums.
Okay, so look this up. It's a great story, and it's been done by many artists since then. But this was like the first. This was a big deal. For somebody to not have to use a sponsor for a tour and be able to buy the additional rights from their old manager, it's sad that he passed away early because he was so smart. It was like he did several other things that no other artist had ever done before this either. Anyway, that what really got me interested in bonds back in the 90s was this whole thing because I was such a music fan back then. We're going back to the PowerPoint. So we talked about what bond interest is. We talked about current yield. We talked about how to get the approximate market value if you want to sell bonds. Now, this, if I put this on the quiz, callable and convertible, it most likely won't be like a math problem. It'll be maybe a definition or something like that. So find those in your book and mark those pages. But I want to make sure you understand what they mean, especially callable. because I know some people got burned. Sometimes when a company wants to issue a bond, they'll say, this bond is a callable bond. So an investor needs to know if it's callable. What it means is that the company who issued the bond, because they were trying to raise money, they can, after a certain amount of time, usually it's like 5 years, they can, even though these bonds are not going to mature for like 20 years, as long as 5 years go by, they can call the bonds early, before maturity. Whoever owns it, if the company says, we're calling these bonds in, at the moment that call goes out, to bring them in and cash them in, whoever owns it at that moment gets the $1,000. So, anyway, that's called a callable bond. Now here's the burn. If you're somebody who said, I want this bond, interest rates went down to 4%, and this is paying $50, I'm going to pay $1,250 for this bond, and you didn't realize it was callable. And a couple months go by, and even a year goes by. Yes, you got $50 for that year, and the call notice went out, and you go, oh my God, you were planning, wait, did I do it backwards? Yeah, you were planning on reselling this because you thought interest rates were going to go down more. That's why you paid a premium for it. But now you can't sell it. As soon as the call order goes out, that bond's not sellable. Whoever's registered owner at that time is going to get the $1,000. And the bond's done. It's over. No more dividends or interest. They're calling them in. Nope. And so this person didn't know it was callable, and they were planning on that $250 and more because they thought interest rates were going to keep going down, but they never got the chance to resell it before they had 12 years to maturity. So they said, I have plenty of time to sell this. It got called in a year later or 2 years later. All they're getting is $1,000. Whoever owns it at that time is just like maturity, gets the $1,000. Once in a while, a company will go, hey, we know we're burning some people. Here's an extra 100 maybe. But that's about it. So if you paid more than 1,100, even in that case, you got burned.
So why would a company call a bond before?
Here's why a company would call a bond. Great question. I was going to mention that, and I didn't know if anybody would be interested. If a company, if interest rates go up, right? They issue these bonds at 5%. I'm sorry. If interest rates go down, right? Hey, we're the company. We borrowed $1,000 from all these people, and we're paying them $50 a month. Meanwhile, 5 years go by, interest rates went down. And our bank says, hey, you want to borrow some money from us, well, you can borrow it for 3.5%. And you go, can I borrow money to pay these bonds off that I'm paying 5% on? Sure. So they'll borrow the money then at 3.5%, call the bonds in and pay everybody because they were paying 5%. So they owe $1 million, they borrow $1 million, pay everybody their $1 million, $1,000, and now their interest payment's only $35 a month instead of $50. Huge saving on $1 million. That's $15 times, what was that, 1,000 bonds is $1 million, is that right, or is that 10,000 bonds? Let me do the math on it. So you can see how much money they save, and that's a very common practice. Most companies feel they have to make that kind of a decision when you have that kind of savings. They will literally borrow the money at a lower rate when the interest rates are going down to pay off the higher rate loan, which is the bonds. That's very common. All right, so that's what callable means. Convertible. Man, I got a slide on convertible.
Good question.
Yeah.
So do people normally, if they can, do they hold their bond until it matures?
Sometimes. Yeah, that's a strategy. Let's say the bond only has like 3 years left on it, and you can get it for, where's that 900 one? $833 or something like that. And you're going to get $1,000 at the end. You're taking it, so you paid $833 for it. You're getting $50 a year. There's only 3 years, so you got $150, $150, $150. But you own it at the end, so you automatically are getting $1,000. You make that difference, $167 extra. So you take, how many years did I say? 2 years, 3 years? So you made 50, 50, and 50. That's 150. And then add this 167 and divide that by the 833 you paid for it. You can see where you made much more than 6%. So that's a strategy for a lot of people. People who trade individual bonds, they do a lot of, they learn a lot more than you're learning in this class before you do that. What I'm trying to get you to understand is how the underlying risk involved in having your retirement in mutual funds that are called bond mutual funds. And sometimes the word income is part of the name. The word income fund means that there's bonds in the fund, and that it's paying income based on those dividends or interests that are being paid to the mutual fund from the bond, from the company's bond. Everybody get it? We're going to learn the names of mutual funds when we get to that chapter. Now convertible. Some bonds are convertible, and you need to know that before you would ever buy an individual bond in your life. If you ever thought about it, you want to make sure, is this callable? Is this convertible? Because there's value in if it's convertible or not convertible. It will say in the bond, after a certain amount of time goes by, this bond can be converted to blanky blank number of shares of our common stock. So what you're doing is you're going, wow, I need to sell this bond. But I don't have to sell it. I can get a hold of the brokerage and have them convert it to, it says right there, the bond will say on it, face value 1,000, interest rate 5%, called coupon rate sometimes. You see the word coupon. Then it will say convertible 22.3 shares or 25 shares. So you got to then get what's the price of their common stock, and you got to say what will get me more money. You do this calculation to see what the approximate market value is if you were to sell the bond, and then you look at what the price per stock is, and you multiply it times the number of shares you can convert it, and say which way would I come out ahead, and it gives you options. So you can either convert it and get the stock, and then sell the stock at a higher price maybe than you could get by selling the bond. So I said there'd be no math on this one, but I want to show you something. Let's say you have a bond, you want to sell it, but you realize you can only get $900 at most for this bond. But it says on there, you can convert it for 24 shares. Okay, you ready? What has to be the price per share for you to get the same money, whether you convert it or sell it for $900? So what I'm saying is, if you choose to convert it for 24 shares, what would the price per share have to be for you to get $900? So the choice would be, no, it doesn't matter which way you go, it would be the same amount. 900 divided by 24 shares equals $37.50 per share. You go on Yahoo and you look up the price per share. And you go, wow, it's $38 per share. Knowing that this was the break-even price, you automatically know I'll come out ahead if I convert this and sell the shares, because the share price is over $37.50, which is exactly what I would get if I sold the bond. So if this is higher, that would be the better decision. Convert it first, then sell the share, then sell the common shares. You see how that works? So there are convertible bonds out there, and there are callable bonds out there. And you don't, in your retirement, you don't have to worry about that because you're in a bond mutual fund, and the manager of the mutual fund is the one worrying about whether they're callable, convertible. Is this a time to buy? Is this a time to sell? Which way are interest rates going? That's what the mutual fund manager is doing every single day from morning to evening. That's what's happening when you join the mutual funds. And that's what's going to happen with retirement for the bond fund. I think that's it. Let me make sure. Did I skip anything? Seems like we're early. We got an in-class. Is that correct? Okay. Courtney, you don't have to take the in-class. We're being late, though. Just checking. It's a joke. She looks serious. I'm going to tell you. She looks scared. Is that it? We have a quiz, and we're done with the class for the semester? Oh, I know what I've got to show you. Can you see this? Philip Morris's book value and price to book. Right? So their price is $81.30. How many times over book value is Philip Morris? So I'm going to stats. I think I already opened it. Right here. Look for book value. Wait, do I have it, or is this moved? Oh, it moved. Okay, look for book value. What's their book value? It's assets minus liabilities divided by the number of outstanding shares. What's their book value? What's that again? How much? No, that's the dollar amount. We're not on times yet. The book value, if Philip Morris were to say, we're going to stop doing business today. We're going to shut down, sell all our assets, all our inventory, pay off all our loans and any money we owe money to, and all the money left over gets split up by the shareholders. Each one of you get nothing, and you owe us $8 and a penny. which they'll never get. So they'll go bankrupt. They have a negative book value. They're, you know, and hopefully the recent investment that you got into is because they got into another cannabis company or something, right? And so that, you know, like, what was the other beer? Corona, who really, the headlines were all over the place when they got into a cannabis company. Philip Morris is following suit, saying this is our way out of our awful cigarette mess that we had years ago that's lost so much money through litigation that we've been on the hole for a while. And they're trying to turn around and get out of the hole. I'm trying to remember if they claimed bankruptcy at one time. I can't remember. So now you go up here to price, meaning the price of the stock, versus book value, and look at what you'll see when it has a negative book value. Price to book ratio is NA. Because there is no book value. It's negative. It can't, so you're paying, if you buy this stock, what was the price again? $80-some dollars for a company that has a negative net worth. That's how crazy investing is. That's why if you save all the money you can to have your emergency fund, and you save money, you go, you know, I want to buy some individual stocks. You want to start playing, like, you're literally at the casino. Because back in the 80s and 90s, if a company has a negative net worth, you're never paying $81.30 per share. That's how crazy the stock market is now compared to the old days. And you guys are just starting to learn about it, so you don't realize how much it's changed. I just can't imagine how much more it could change, because it's crazy. This is so much like being at a casino now than it was before. At least before, you felt like you had a good chance. You knew the economy was growing. You knew this company was honest and doing good things, and you had a chance to make money. But now you have no idea what's going on. You're just putting money on 36 red. Here we go. Philip Morris. And that's really what you're doing when you're buying individual stock. And your returns that are in the mutual funds that have names, like you'll see the name equity within the name and a couple others, that means that mutual fund is in stocks. So I just want you to see the risk involved with your retirement. Most people just put the money, every paycheck going into that retirement, going into that mutual fund, and they don't watch it, they don't care, they just let it sit there for 30 years, and they just hope that when they retire, it's at a time when the market was up. But don't rely on hope. Take what you're learning here and make those changes as you know the economy's changing, you know the market's changing. Take less risk if you need to. All right, that was it. That's all I had.